everyone, to the Elevator Show here at NotInHallOfFame.com. And I'm Kirk Buchner. I run this joint here in the 32nd floor of the Not in Hall of Fame Tower, or my apartment. One or the other. I mean, I don't know, but it's possible that, now that I'm a public figure, maybe they're sort of like going to put that on blast, like right outside. I think they should, especially with my partner in this, Chris Mouradian, who, if you Google me as a public figure, he comes up too.
How you doing, Kirk?
I'm doing good, Chris. I mean, like, I don't know why they couldn't pick a better picture of us both.
Yeah. Well, beggars can't be choosers, right?
I didn't even beg for it. It just happened. I mean, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, not that there's a lot of great pictures of me that exist, but that's where I'm a beggar and I couldn't be a chooser.
There you go.
And well, this is the show. If you're new to what we do here monthly, we look back at the month that was. We're recording this on February 25th, and we're looking at the month of February and who made a Hall of Fame elevator up and who made a Hall of Fame elevator down. And as always, Chris and I don't tell each other who we've actually decided on for up and down, but this is the first time we had a pre-meeting, and actually we have a format. Look at that.
It's almost like we're trying to be professional here tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm drinking beer, but anyway, yes. As professional as I'm capable of.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I thought we'd start off with, granted, it seems like it's so long ago, but it's this month, the Super Bowl. Philadelphia thumped Kansas City to the delight of many, not necessarily because people are anti-Chiefs, just we're tired of them.
Fair. Yeah. I think it was kind of a lot of let's see somebody new type sentiment out there this year.
Right. So I think the Eagles fans always travel well for those games. It was clearly an Eagles crowd, and I think that a lot of people who were neutral were probably cheering for the Eagles, like I was at home. Like, I think, were you too? I don't know.
I was kind of indifferent. I kind of leaned towards Kansas City for the for Andy Reid, based on him starting his professional coaching career up here in Green Bay. So
fair, okay, yeah, and then that's a good reason to,
as any really
yeah, no, absolutely. But there were some winners who helped their career a lot. I'll just start off with the most obvious one. Well, he got over that hump. He's been there before, but he didn't win. Now he has, and that's quarterback Jalen Hurts. And it's really hard for a quarterback to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame without a Super Bowl ring. Now he's got one. I mean, it's not impossible, but
no, I mean, you got the Dan Marinos and Fran Tarkingtons that jump out, Dan Fouts, but truly the quarterbacks seem to be judged most heavily on their hardware, their Hall of Fame, or their championships and their MVPs. So having a championship there in his resume now is a huge step forward for Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. Is there any, like, I've got a few others, but I thought you just from there. So.
Sure, I got two related directly to Hall of Fame or to the Super Bowl. So let me I'll jump in here with one.
Yeah,
and I'll stay on the offense side of the ball with Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
So he had obviously a tremendous year this past year. Eclipsing 2,000 yards rushing, offensive player of the year. Didn't win the MVP, but was definitely in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got a Super Bowl trophy to go with his Rookie of the Year trophy and his Pro Bowl in all pros. So just another feather in his cap there. Had a little bit of struggles with staying healthy some years with the Giants, but really found a home with the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Still relatively young, though. Running backs do tend to age a little quicker than some of the other players on the field because of the stress on the body. But he seems like he's ready to jump out there and have another top of the league season here coming up in 25.
No, that's what I was going to talk about too. With Barkley and also what Derrick Henry did in Baltimore, mm-hmm. It was fantastic for two teams that, let's be blunt, kind of took a chance on both of those guys. Henry had his best year to date. This is the year I think we both agreed that if Henry gets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, this is the year you might point at to sort of put him over. And the running game is back, baby, and I love it. I love it. I am very, very happy to sort of see that. Sticking with that, one person who I think might be the biggest beneficiary of all, who didn't get a lot of talk about that, but the line for Philadelphia was fantastic. Everyone always talked about Jason Kelce, and why wouldn't you? He was the superstar center, and he was I'll talk about it like he's dead. He's still a larger than life character. Lane Johnson's on that line.
Yeah.
And he is making a very quiet Hall of Fame case. Mm-hmm. And now he's got another ring.
Yep. Offensive lineman live in anonymity on the inside for sure. And as with all pros, having a Super Bowl championship on your resume, now 2 of them in the last 7 years, is big for Johnson, and definitely puts him in the conversation now for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Do you have another one that you want to go through?
I do, and I'm going to step off the field for this one. Howie Roseman, the general manager for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Very good. Yeah.
So he has now built 3 Super Bowl teams. 2 of them are champions.
Mm-hmm.
And for a Pro Football Hall of Fame, Roseman would be considered a contributor. And as we've seen recently, the contributors have had difficulty getting into the Hall of Fame. So even with 2 now Hall of Fame, 2 Super Bowl championship teams, a third one that went there and lost, 2 Executive of the Year awards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's
yeah, I mean, like, he's certainly in that conversation, like that entire front office, right? Like, we could sort of like extend that towards Nick Sirianni. I mean, we know how hard it is. I talked about quarterback. It's so much easier once you've got that first ring to get to the Hall of Fame. But how many great head coaches have we seen not get in because they couldn't finally get over that one hump? And coaching is so elevated. I mean, coaching in football, I think, is more important than all the other big sports combined. I truly believe that.
Yeah, the most obvious one with not being able to get over the hump would be Marty Schottenheimer. I think,
right.
One that jumps right to mind there.
Thing.
But
so
yeah,
Nick
Sirianni is another one now.
Yep. Also former coach of the year. I mean, the execution was near perfect.
Yeah, game plan was drawn up to a T there. Defense, the offense, everything just gelled right as it should, as you would expect it to when you're in your pre-planning. Everything just worked right for them.
And now we have an owner with 2 rings, and Jeffrey Lurie.
Yes, we do.
So that certainly helps. So clearly he knows what he's doing, and Philly sure needs it, considering how everything's going with the Sixers. Ooh, ooh, the process my ass, huh?
Yeah, well, there's always next year.
There's always next year. I've got one more thing with the Super Bowl, unless there's
no, that's all on my side for the Super Bowl.
Okay, well, the biggest loser of all wasn't the Kansas City Chiefs. It wasn't even Taylor Swift getting booed. You know who it was?
No.
Drake. Because and I know you're not a hip hop guy. I'm not as much as I used to. Don't let this pale face confuse you. Hi. If you're watching, not listening, that is Winnie making sometimes an occasional co-host. She's decided to make her presence known. And when Winnie was watching that, what did you think? What's that? Yes, they're not like us. And I won't sort of bore you, Chris, with the whole hip hop battle sort of thing, but I think you can agree, even if that's not something you know much about, and I'm still learning a whole lot about that myself. If you lose a hip hop battle, you lose credibility. So it was Kendrick Lamar versus Drake. And one of those songs is called Not Like Us. In that song, he rips Drake a lot and accuses him bluntly of being a pedophile. That song was played at the halftime show. Not only was it played, the song itself was used as bumpers leading up to, and Kendrick Lamar's coming. So in front of the biggest audience, it was punctuated. Basically, hi, Drake, you're a bitch. So he is now elevator down for the Rock Hall. As much as he's got the hits, he's got a Rock Hall resume based on how the Rock Hall looks now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm a Hall voter, and I never will be, but if I was, you're looking at Drake. No one's taken a more public beating than this guy has. You know,
All right.
yeah. He's probably out there getting drunk with Kamala. I don't know if you've seen some of the word salad she's been spouting off lately.
Has not stopped since November.
Yeah. Trust us. Drunks know each other. We know the language. So, but
So
anyway, I didn't want to go politics. Sorry, but
so Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Is it really the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, considering some of these inductees here, or should it really be reclassified as the Music Hall of Fame or something more?
Yeah. When I first started the site, there was a gentleman named Daryl Talarahi. I want to give him his props because we used to sort of like talk online a bit. I should reach out to him. He said like all these problems would have been avoided if they just called it the Rock and Soul Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
And rock and roll is a very hard thing to sort of classify, especially now as your traditional rock bands, you don't really see them on the charts anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if hip hop is rock it to an extent, yeah, I mean, like it's one of those bizarre things that I mean that are hard to sort of classify. I mean, for me, rock. If I ask 20 music historians what rock and roll is, I'm going to get 20 different answers.
Oh yeah,
including the answer I would give.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a problem with it, but to your point, based on where it is, he's got the catalog of a Hall of Famer easy. He's got a catalog of a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he won't be because he's not going to recover from this. He hasn't. He dropped some music lately, and it did not dominate on X. I checked over on Blue Sky, which is, I think a lot of us got Blue Sky accounts just because that looked like that might be the thing to do. And none of us are using it.
I'll take your word for it. I do not. X is enough for me. I have enough trouble managing one account.
Well, I'm sort of happy that Blue Sky didn't really take off where some people thought it might, because yeah, to your point, it's hard enough. I don't really want to repeat the same thing. I know sort of like add another 30 seconds, but yeah, I just didn't want to do that. So, but you know, if it's there, if I need it, and you can follow us or follow me at Blue Sky. Not that I posted anything in a while, but I might again. I don't know. We will see. Sure. There might be a whole other group of people that I could reach out to that I'm not aware of.
There you go.
And that
another avenue for you there.
Oh yeah, well, Gab didn't do me anything. Do I still even have? I don't think I ever posted one. I think I created an account and never actually. All I did, I just lurked there. It's like, oh, well, these are just a bunch of people here just waiting because they thought Twitter might get nuked. Is that still even a thing? I don't even know.
Twitter?
No, Gab.
I think it's still out there. I think they just have their core users and kind of haven't really grown much since inception.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so let's move on to the All-Star games. Oh, I have a prop. I thought I had it ready, so sure. I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to go get this.
Okay.
I'm just going to go get this. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So we had the competing All-Star events, so to speak. We had the NBA All-Star Weekend, and then the NHL, instead of doing a traditional All-Star Weekend, came up with the Four Nations Tournament that included Sweden, Finland, the United States, and Canada. So, Mr. Canada up there.
That was my I meant to sort of have that ready, but
yeah. So having those two kind of going on at the same time, we had some real interesting contrasts in I don't know if appeal is the right word, interest,
yes,
excitement. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what we saw or didn't see.
Well, yeah, and I thought the most interesting thing, because I didn't watch, usually I watch the All-Star game or all the All-Star game festivities live. I didn't this time. I recorded well, the Saturday, obviously I didn't, because that was the US Canada game.
Right.
So there was no way I was going to miss that. They watched it too. That's Jasper and Winnie. They're going at it. You can follow them at Jasper_the friendly corgi on Instagram. I might as well give them a plug. So you and I, we recorded our preview or hockey show, and I think we're probably going to do a lot more in hockey going forward. Analytics say they like when Chris talks hockey, so we're going to give you more of that.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. So we're going to probably do a lot more with hockey. We're going to do a lot more actually on this whole platform sooner than later. But when we did this one, the first thing that I asked you was your level of interest going into it. I think you said 2, and I think I said 6.
Yeah. So my level of interest was not necessarily about the content. I knew we were going to get some good hockey.
Well, no, it was about
my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern was players being in a high intensity game in the middle of their season, right? 2 months before the Stanley Cup playoffs start, and the risk for injury, which kind of played out a little bit here. You ask Boston how they're feeling with Charlie McAvoy now potentially being gone for the year. So that was my concern. My interest is like, do we really want to do something like this that, well, it's best on best. It's not for an Olympic medal. What is it really going to add to somebody's resume?
I think it turns out a lot, but
yeah. And then we watch the games.
Yeah. So like mine went from 6 to 10 like that.
Yep.
And when you see that, as you were saying, the contrast between that and the NBA All-Star game, where you have LeBron an hour before saying, well, I'm not playing. You've got possibly the worst All-Star game ever in the history of bad All-Star games in basketball. You have Draymond Green in the pre-show saying that this format sucks.
Yeah.
And the talking heads next to him didn't disagree with him.
No, and I think if you put that to the public, I think they would agree with him as well.
Yeah. And there's no effort in these All-Star games. And to your point, Chris, and like you being a Canucks fan, obviously your eyes were on Pettersson. You want to make sure that he's comes out of it unscathed. As a Jets fan, actually, right where I checked, right now you're 8, we're 1, so that'll be fun if that's what happens. We'll be chirping to each other on Twitter, and just another PSA: chirp the way that Chris and I do. We're very respectful. Like we're not booing an anthem or anything like that.
At least you heard.
I'm not gonna do that. Although it was weird because like I live in Seattle, for those who don't know now, but a Canadian boy through and through. I had people come up to me because I wore the hat a couple days, like, I'm American, but I'm so happy you won. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
which was sort of interesting, but
yeah,
I think that's sort of the times we live in. People on the other side of the political aisle were very happy when Meg Rapinoe lost. So I guess that's where we are. I don't like it, but I mean, hell, I hate Justin Trudeau and he loves hockey.
Yeah.
But I'm not, just because he was happy one day doesn't mean I'm not going to be. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But hockey players are clearly built differently. Once you put on a team jersey, and that's been ingrained in hockey culture all my life. In Canada, really, it's sort of set from 1972 when you had the Best of Best Summit Series. In the US, obviously 1980, with the greatest upset in all sports history, period.
45 years ago.
Yeah. And it was the most phenomenal thing. So I think I tried to watch as much of that tournament as I could find, but it is the most incredible thing. Actually, I've got a USA replica jersey from 1980.
Yeah, the nice thing with it being around a year like this, and just coming out of the Four Nations, a lot of clips floating around X with of the the final 30 seconds of the game against the Soviets, and the medal ceremony with with the national anthem and the team, joining Mike Ruzioni on the podium there. A lot of good feels for us Americans down here to kind of
Yeah.
wash that taste out of our mouth from
So
Thursday.
here's something you may not have known. Well, first off, also too, I've been saying first off a lot. Whoever let Chantal Kreviazuk sing our anthem, please don't do that again. She had a few hits in Canada, but that was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I think there were people in Boston booing just because of how bad it was.
It was a version. I'll give her that.
And here's something you may not know. Gretzky's getting some hate in Canada.
Oh, you're really? What's for?
Because I guess he's friendly with Trump.
Oh,
said that he should become her governor.
Yeah.
And shit like that. So
yeah.
So I guess there's some Canadians who are learning that Gretzky doesn't hate this guy, or maybe they've golfed together, which they probably have. Which I don't care.
Would you turn down a chance to golf with Gretzky or Trump or any of those guys?
No, I wouldn't turn that. I wouldn't turn that down. I wouldn't turn down to golf with Kamala. I think she's
interesting
great when the beer cart comes.
That's right. That could be interesting.
No, there's very few celebrities or politicians. I'm not big on any politician, period. But if you're talking to them just socially and they open up with some cool stories, I'm not going to miss a chance to get a cool story.
Yeah,
is the way I look at it. But there was actually a 2-minute thing on CBC, and for those who don't know what CBC is, that's basically our version. That's our national broadcasting system. And there was this guy they interviewed, those great man on the street interviews, which basically means you have no time to kill, or you have a lot of time to kill and you can't come up with real news, where he's talking about how, because there's Wayne Gretzky Drive in Edmonton, like right in a very, it's not just like one of those things right by the arena, which is only like 500 meters long. It's like a full-on parkway. So in a very important part of the city. Well, we got to rename that and maybe take down the statue. Look, I don't care if he sucks Trump's balls. What he's done for Canadian hockey and hockey in general. Okay, maybe I do care. Don't suck his balls, but he's the great one. That's Wayne Gretzky.
He's done for hockey in general for the entire world.
You don't even know what his political leanings are. He could maybe not care. I don't know.
Big time celebrities tend to interact with other big time celebrities. And in Canada, I don't know that you have a bigger celebrity than Wayne Gretzky. Maybe to be your musician that not coming to mind here, but yeah, I mean, so what? He went to Mar-a-Lago. He got invited. What, supposed to say no?
Well, he could. I mean, there's, and I respect people who may say that they want to have their opinion. That's great, but you got to go the other way too. Again, in my opinion, because we're going to talk about. We mentioned LeBron. LeBron's got a very anti-Trump opinion, and my thing that I've always said to Evan on the weekly Hall of Fame show, I think athletes can say whatever the hell they want, or they can say nothing. If you want to spout off your political opinion, do it. If you don't want to, great. We're not entitled to it. So LeBron wants to give his opinion on things, fine. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. But that doesn't necessarily, we're in that weird culture too, where all these celebrities, and not so much athletes, but whose side of the political pond are you on? Most of the athletes don't care. Because most of them are in their 20s.
I think it was years ago. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but just what sticks in my mind when you start talking about athletes and politics, I think it was Michael Jordan that said that Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah, and which might have been a soft way of saying that. Yeah, I'm probably leaning more towards that, but why do? Yeah, and which is a blunt thing to say. I want to sell some shoes. I get that, but If you want to be political, again, great.
Mm-hmm.
I can tune it out. I can agree with that athlete. I can disagree with that athlete. I don't agree to that stick to sports shit. But at the same time, you're also an athlete. Why is your opinion that important to me? If I really want to know about politics, I'm going to go to a political pundit on differing sides of the aisle. That's what I do because I like hearing different opinions so I can form my own. Saying that, when we have some people, because the anti-American thing in Canada is growing huge. I don't know if you're aware of how bad it is.
I've heard stuff about people canceling vacations to the States and things like that.
Well, my
That's
brother, I don't think he'll have a problem with me saying that. My brother's one. He was going to
okay.
be in Seattle, and so I have to meet him in Vancouver instead
Yeah.
because he does not want to spend any money in the U.S. economy. He is also fearful for me. He's worried about me. But he's not alone in that. I've had other people reach out. Hey, are you okay? I have friends of mine who are looking at on the label to make sure they're not buying American products. Before, when I was in Canada, I always tried to buy Canadian products too. Support the economy. I think Americans should do the same. Buy America. It's good for your country. It makes sense, right?
So you're looking, don't buy the Chinese.
Well, I generally try to avoid it when I can. I don't think I'm making much of a political statement there, but I mean, I'd rather help our own. And this will all blow over, but it's one of those things where it's fascinating, but also made for some great hockey, didn't it?
It did.
It made this was for a very short and brief tournament. This was so much fun. It was so much fun to watch. The poor Finns, unfortunately, they just were decimated on defense. But again, they'll be back. I don't know what their plans are going forward. I heard floated a summit series, 5 games, Canada, USA.
Ooh, that could be interesting. I know next year is Olympics, and then they wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So basically 2 years from now again. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah. I think the Olympics has always kind of been the one you want to win, the gold medal, that carries the cachet with it.
Right.
I don't know if this is going to be like the 1996 where the hockey fans really remember it, but the casuals that kind of got swept up into watching it. 96 Canada Cup. Yeah.
No, World Cup.
World Cup. Yes.
Yeah, no. I was just watching actually a YouTube video when basically entitled how Canada basically got too cocky and beat themselves. And that's like from that tournament, that is something where I will stand on Mike Richter's sort of banner, for the hockey hall.
Yeah.
But anywho.
Yeah. So we'll see where this goes. But the nice thing is they get to back it up again next year with the Olympic tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And you would expect there to be some more building off of that Olympic tournament for future best on best style tournaments like this.
I think also too, what we saw is star-making performances in the United States. I have to wonder how many Tkachuk jerseys have just been bought, both either Matthew or Brady, and that's my biggest elevator up from this tournament. There's a lot of people for the first time got to see Matthew's brother Brady, who's sort of been toiling in obscurity playing for the Ottawa Senators, who might actually make the playoffs this year. And if they do, it's because of Brady Tkachuk. Actually, it was sort of amazing. Like a stat came up. I forget in which game. And both goals were scored by Ottawa Senators. There's something you don't hear too often.
Yeah, that was the Thursday game, the championship game, where Sanderson and Brady had the goals for U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 Ottawa Senators scored for the United States. There you go.
Yeah, which, man, there's some irony there if you really think about that, because it's in Ottawa. But either way, it was sort of nice to see Ottawa sort of being represented again.
Yeah.
Brady Tkachuk is my biggest elevator up from all of this.
Okay.
In terms of someone who people are getting to know. Matthew Tkachuk, I think people already knew who he was. He's already won a Stanley Cup. For Brady, who's never been in a playoff game in his life, this was the biggest game of his life. And
He
for
showed up. He played through that injury, played the same style, didn't change his game at all, even though he was clearly not 100%.
If I'm an American hockey fan, I leave this tournament thinking, okay, we didn't get this one, but I think we're the best team in the world.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at next year.
Oh,
like I said,
with another up. Sorry, but
I do have a hockey up, and it's related here. But so yeah, next year you start to kind of eyeball the teams. You're pretty much looking at the same group of players that you had this year, maybe one or two changes in and out. Obviously, you expect the U.S. to be bolstered with Quinn Hughes, who was missed on the blue line there.
Huge,
right? So it'll definitely be a fun tournament. But yeah, so I did have a hockey up related to the Four Nations. However, not any of the players on the ice, but a player that was discussed because of players on the ice, and that's Keith Tkachuk.
Yes.
How many times did we hear Keith's name brought up with relation to, father of Brady and Matthew, and why, the great career he had, and how is it that he's not in the Hall of Fame yet? It's like, you look at his stats, 500 goals, over 1,000 points, 1,200 games, 2,200 penalty minutes. This year is a tough.
Based on Brady and Matthew, you could put his semen in the Hall. Sorry.
We'll just stick with the on ice accomplishments here.
Couldn't help it.
But yeah, you look at what he's done on the ice, and his career is really one of those that's been overlooked. And this year's tough class to try to be breaking into with the first ballot eligibles. We have some slam dunk guys with Chara and Price and Joe Thornton, I believe.
Yeah, Thornton's up on this one.
Yeah, so tough to break in, but his name got brought back up into that site, into the conversation again. And his kids, the more they did on the ice, the more the Chuck name came up. We were talking about Keith. It helps, he doesn't just fall back into obscurity. He's back in relevance again.
Yeah, that's a great one. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Tkachuks, the kids anyway, they were born in Phoenix?
I believe so.
So Austin Matthews is another Arizona kid. So let's say we met 20 years ago. Hey, by the way, U.S. is going to be just as good in Canada in hockey, and your three best players are going to come from Arizona. Like what? You'd look at me like I'm completely insane, unlike how you look at me now. But still,
yeah. Actually, Austin Matthews was born in California but moved to Arizona at a young age. So still, though, best three best players are from California and Arizona.
You have a great one who wasn't picked. He's just not doing as much as he used to. Jason Robertson. He was another California kid.
Yeah, he was another one that could have easily made that team there. So I mean, yeah, there's depth to go around still of players that weren't selected this time that could very well be on a team in Italy next year, or back in another best on best tournament 2 years from now.
Yeah, well, I do have another up from it, and when we did our preview, and I think when everyone did their previews, we said that the biggest liability that Canada had was in between the pipes, and Jordan Binnington would it mattered the most, because you watched the overtime like I did, and it sure looked like it was going to go like America was going to put it in like at any moment, and Binnington was pretty much saving the team at that point, because that first 5 minutes was completely dominated by the United States.
Yeah,
Binnington's performance in that game has now elevated him up. He is also a Stanley Cup champion, which hell I forget. I mean, the St. Louis Blues run was kind of forgetful to me.
Yeah.
That they won the whole thing, and I was happy for them because the St. Louis fans are good. They had never won anything before, but Binnington was there when it mattered the most. We said, would this tournament help anybody? And I think going into it, we probably thought, probably not. Well, I guess we were wrong.
Yeah, for sure. We wrong on that. Bennington, they discussed the fact that he had that they had some reservations, concerns about him, but he was selected for that championship game because of the way he's played in those pressure situations in the past.
Yeah.
I think they said the game 7 was in Boston, that same arena that he helped St. Louis win their cup with. So yeah, great on Jordan there to rise to the occasion. Thought for sure we were going to get the United States was going to get a goal there. The way they just kept pouring it on, and it just kind of felt like it was inevitable at that point. And then the play goes down the other end, kind of I don't know. I disagree with was it icing call? I think at that point it brought the face off down to the other end of the ice, and
yeah, I know which color you mean.
Could have been waived, and they didn't. So, but
yeah. And whoever sort of like arranging the line changes, holy crap for Canada, but we got lucky.
Yeah, a couple of fire drills there for sure.
Ooh. Ooh. I thought Don Cherry was back behind the bench there.
Those overheads from like the second deck, where you can kind of see how the players were making their way to the bench and how the scramble to get on and get into the play there.
And it happened multiple times in multiple games for Canada. It was, I don't know what was going on there, but that was entertaining. The NBA in the same time frame and was not. Let's look at the top players in the NBA. We talked about LeBron James, who an hour before said, okay, I'm not going to play in a game that is nobody's putting any defensive effort. Nobody wants to get hurt, but he could have easily just sort of like played a few minutes and then just sat out, give the fans at least, because
he could have even put his uniform on for the team picture. That was, just kind of, again,
it's a bad look from a guy who is disliked by a large population, some because of his politics, some because he always seems to be chasing that ring, and some because he says a lot of dumb shit. I think all things are true. I think LeBron is one of the best players of all time. I commend the fact that he's gone this long. He's 40 years old and he's still a top 10 player. That is fantastic. There's been no player better over the age of 40 than LeBron James. Nobody. And I'm amazed at his dedication and his work ethic to stay in that type of shape. Just like his nepotism, in terms of his son, who has no business playing NBA basketball at this stage. But at the same time, you see that kid, he doesn't seem like a Nepo baby either. He is, but he carries himself very well. I got to commend LeBron on that. So I'm going to guess he's a pretty good parent. But the All-Star game means nothing to any NBA player. Paul George said that he hated it. Of course, the way Paul George is playing, he's never going to be in another All-Star game. But he openly said that it's just like, I don't want to have to do this. All this is a big party for some people, and it's a great boon for a city. But the event it's ass.
Yeah.
There's no other better way to say this. The NBA, their ratings are in trouble. One of the things that trended, and I forget which women's player said this, where she was jokingly saying that because she was there and called it the MNBA. So MNBA was trending. And why not? They're in big trouble. So your two biggest names outside of the sport, your most two biggest marketable names, LeBron James is 40. How much has he got left? And a lot of people dislike him. Steph Curry's 35, or is he 36?
Not sure.
Yeah. Kevin Durant is a malcontent everywhere he goes, and everywhere he goes, he can't make any team better. Your youngest star, Victor Wembanyama, is in big trouble with a blood clot. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of worry about him. The actual best player in the last 5 years is Nikola Jokic, who is completely unmarketable, and he's fine with it. He's that guy, when the Nuggets won the championship, and he said he's more happy for his teammates. I believe him. I'm sure that's completely true. Jokic should be the face of the NBA. He doesn't have the face of what you want to promote for the NBA. He even plays ugly when you watch him. You think, how is he this effective when he doesn't even look like he's close to being the most athletic guy on the court?
Yeah.
But he's not going to be the face of it, and I think he's fine with it. He's like Mike Trout. Best player for a long time, and a lot of people couldn't tell you how Mike Trout even sounds. Mm-hmm. You're a guy in Milwaukee, Giannis.
Giannis, yep.
No, it's the same thing. Europeans, Luka, who we talked about a lot last month, mm-hmm. It's hard for a lot of Americans in basketball to just sort of like gravitate towards a non-American as a superstar or as your face of the league. Mm-hmm. You can do it in other sports. Shohei Ohtani is proof of that. But in basketball, it's a lot tougher. And we've seen a lot of these great players who just can't break through into that status where, as Evan always calls it, the Q rating. Like, how much are you known outside of that? How much do you sort of like, do people non-fans know who you are?
Right.
They know who LeBron is. They know who Curry is. They might know who Durant is, but Giannis, they may not know. Jokic, they wouldn't know. If I were to point to my wife and say, yeah, that guy is a 3-time MVP and probably should have been a 4-time MVP, she would have looked at me and said, like, this guy? Joel Embiid his reputation is taking a pounding this year. Mm-hmm. Ja Morant, who they wanted to be the face of the league, is a moron. Hey, don't put a gun on Instagram. Okay. You did it again?
Well, he hasn't yet this year, so
there's that. I
small steps.
I forget what player said this. There's NBA Youngboy the rapper. We have NBA Dumbboy. He cost himself millions. He lost out in an all NBA thing which would have kicked in a much bigger contract. He lost millions of dollars because he had to sort of like flash a gun in a club. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards is on a team that is just imploding without Cat, with Karl Anthony Towns. So the star power, at least I don't want to say in my lifetime, because that wouldn't be accurate, but at least since the Jordan era, has never been lower.
Yeah. The other player you didn't mention there, SGA, again, plays in Oklahoma City.
Right? And
Canadian.
Yeah.
But, he's obviously somebody that's right there potentially as MVP for this year. Mm-hmm. But again, too, you walk down the street, how many people are going to pick him out of a crowd?
Not as many. Not as many as it sort of would be. The ratings are awful. And especially when it was compared to the hockey players, mm-hmm. When people are seeing that like there's no effort going on here, it's a turnoff. You bring out Mac McClung, who's a G League stalwart. Mac McClung, who has one more slam dunk contest win than he has a bucket in the NBA this year. So how do you solve it? Do you pay them? They're already rich. They don't want to do it.
That's just it. You look back at the salaries when they played the game to win the games back in the 80s and early 90s. Salaries were up there, but they're not like they are today, where you're
just a few years ago. If Kobe was there, you think Kobe would let this happen?
Good point. Yeah, he definitely played the game the way he was brought up to play the game. to win every game.
Yes. So, I mean, Kobe used to be really pissed off on Shaq's lack of effort. And then you have Shaq saying, more or less saying, like, this is crap, along with Barkley, who had his effort issues challenged, not because he didn't sort of give what he had, but he couldn't stay in shape. Mm-hmm. He was battling his weight, like Zion Williamson is now. It is a sad thing. And for anyone who was thinking, well, it's a white-black thing, go fuck yourself, because we can say the same thing on football. They give everything that they have on every game, and that's predominantly black. It's just hockey players and football players are built differently, clearly, than this generation of basketball players. They don't want to do it. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know that they want to fix it because it still generates so much money for the league and for whatever city is going to host it. But clearly, whatever it is, it's not working. It's not worth my time to watch it. I may not even record it next year.
Once they start being unable to sell out the arena, then they may take it seriously. I don't think they really are going to take it seriously until that starts happening.
Well, yeah, look at, we were talking about when we did this last month, we were mentioning how some of the seats weren't sold yet for the Four Nations. It looked like there weren't empty seats in some of those games. Mm-hmm. The All-Star game and all that stuff, I believe, and I could be wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat. We've been getting a lot of comments, and I do appreciate that. So thanks so much for that. Saying that, if you put out $3,000 and you're just like a regular working class person to finally go to the NBA All-Star game, and you put like $2,000 to do the NHL the final thing, did you get your money's worth on the Canada US thing? Yeah, even if you're a US fan, I think you did.
Oh, as a US fan, yes, I was enthralled up to the final goal being scored.
Yeah,
$2,000, for a seat though.
Well, okay.
I mean, you'd have, comparatively speaking, between the two.
Because
you got your money's worth.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, you got your money's worth if you bought the ticket to the Four Nations finals, as opposed to the All-Star game. That much is for sure.
You can look back and say to maybe I don't know, to some people, oh yeah, I was there. Oh my God, how was that? Oh, I was at the NBA All-Star game. Which is basically just Kevin Hart monologue for 40 minutes. I love Kevin Hart, but I think somebody joked it was a Kevin Hart concert with a few basketball interludes. And that's what it was. It was the worst thing. And I don't know if I've ever done this before, where I've had an elevator down 2 months in a row. Adam Silver, your elevator down. This is on you. Who would have thought that Gary Bettman, who is very disliked in Canada, and the reason why that is, for those wondering, the belief in Canada has always been that Gary Bettman wants to grow hockey in the United States at the expense of Canada.
Yeah.
Well, he's basically seeing everything that his whole vision come true. Hockey's worked. Well, I know people say, well, it didn't work in Phoenix. That was because of where they put it.
Yeah. Didn't work in Atlanta twice.
Georgia's just not a hockey town.
Right.
But around it, the fans in Nashville are fantastic. Mm-hmm. Evan told me he went to a preseason game when he was in the conference. A preseason game, and he said it was electric.
Yeah.
Carolina, the fans are great. Tampa, the fans are great. Florida, Miami.
They're getting it. They're understanding it.
And Phoenix will have a team again. They just have to put it in the same. They just have to put it downtown, and it'll work. It will work. Houston, if they get a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dallas Stars fans, they're out there every night supporting them.
His dream of hockey growth in the United States has probably 90% come to where he wants it to be. And we saw the result of that. Gary Bettman, I've also joked, because he's already in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's the only person whose Hall of Fame career actually got better after he got into the Hall. Because when he got in, it's like, get out with that noise. But no, I give props to when people need props. Gary Bettman has been what he's wanted to do and grow the game in the US, he's done. He's done it. And I don't know how many young kids were watching that stuff and we'll learn from that.
Yeah.
The US is going to be the force for the world to come. I honestly think in the Olympics, we're maybe like 1 or 2 years away from an official passing of the torch. And it pains me to say this as a Canadian, believe me. But
yeah, we'll see. I got to win it first, and that's gonna, you got to get to that top of the mountain, whatever
to win it,
metaphor you want to use. Yeah, but
yeah. It's like in women's hockey, right? I mean, the U.S. women's team is on paper better than the Canadian team for a long time, but Canada always finds a way.
Yeah.
And induct Cami Granado to the United States Athletic Hall of Fame if we could nominate her.
That's right. She was one of my first selections when I received the ballot the other day.
Yep, I haven't even put in my votes yet, but I guess here's an interlude. What we're talking about is the United States Athletics Hall of Fame, and we are going to be going into year 3. And the ballot is going out to some people. I have to send it out to some more people. And the ballot in question is replacing the previous nominees. So it's for 25 nominees where they will replace the 25 who got in, and there will be a ballot for everybody coming in early April, maybe late March, depending on how timing works, where you can vote on who you think should be the third class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. We have a select group of Olympians, former NFL players. I'm working on getting a few other ones. I think we might have a AAA broadcaster coming aboard for that. I'm very happy about that. I reached out to some journalists. And yeah, so it's not just basically some like 2 scrubs like Evan, Chris, and me saying, okay, let's do this. We put in a lot of effort in our thought process, but we need some name gravitas, and I think we have that.
Yeah, wide swath of people making these decisions here. It's not just a group of guys sitting around in their basement playing cards and talking about who should be on the ballot.
And I don't have a basement. But so I guess we sort of go now from here. Oh, do you have another elevator up, elevator down from the Four Nations?
Not from the Four Nations. I have elevator up, elevator down for basketball and hockey, but unrelated.
No, floor is yours.
All right, so let's start with basketball, since they kind of had they were the more or less the elevator down here. I got an elevator up, and that is Andre Iguodala.
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors just retired his uniform number the other day, and Andre had kind of an interesting career. He was clearly a very important member of those Golden State Warrior teams that won championships out there. He was a Finals MVP, but he was never really the driving star of that team. He was a very good role player, but he wasn't the Steph Curry, the Draymond Green, the Kevin Durant that got a lot of the headlines. So for players like that had some really solid careers, maybe the jersey retirement may be all he, the pinnacle for him for his career, but it does kind of get you on the radar when something like that happens. So I saw that the other day and kind of like, yeah, you know what? He had a damn good career, and he was a very important player on that team that, we'll see how much more recognition he receives, but their jersey retirement definitely helps that out, I think.
Yeah, it does. Andre was interviewed once, and he said, when asked about that, are you a Hall of Famer? He kind of went, no, but I think he's closer than he thinks he is.
Mm-hmm.
If there is like a role player Hall of Fame or a glue guy Hall of Fame in all sports, Andre's first ballot.
Yeah, for sure.
And
that's exactly what kind of player he was.
Yeah. Probably the first and last, well, not probably the first and probably the last 6-man ever to win an NBA Finals MVP. I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Yeah.
If that was going to happen to anyone, it would have been Iguodala.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. And then my down is in hockey, and that go up to the Pacific Northwest here and mention goaltender for my team, Thatcher Demko. So Demko was the runner-up for Vezina in last season, 2024.
Mhm.
Then the playoffs happened. He injured lower body injury. They report those injuries in the playoffs, and it stuck around and stuck around and stuck around. He's um, injured again. He's come back. He's played 17 games so far this year. Missed a large chunk of the beginning of the season. Finally started to get rolling a bit, and then another injury hit. While he's been injured, Kevin Lankinen has stepped in, goaltender they signed a few weeks before training camp started, just a real basic 1 year, barely above minimum salary contract.
Mhm.
And he's come in, he's played very well in Thatcher's place, and now the Canucks are rewarded with a 5 year deal. And you have Demko now as, is he still your number one? Or is Lankinen now your number one? And is Demko on his way out? Does he go from being the runner-up from Vezina, probably a Olympic goaltender, Four Nations goaltender this year, Olympic goaltender next year, to looking for work? It could be.
Could be. Well,
Salary cap is going to go up, so it's possible to kind of have two somewhat expensive goaltenders on your roster, but it's not really the greatest
yeah, but you can
cap
have Lankinen
management.
cheaper, so you're going to go with that.
Right.
Is
And longer.
Demko a free agent soon?
So he's got this year and next year, and then he's a free agent.
Okay.
So definitely covering their bases out there. They kind of had to make sure that was there, but the swing there from the runner up in Vezina now to they're signing a replacement. It looks like, to a longer term deal.
The goalies can fall off so quickly. I mean, it's just so much psychology with that.
Yeah, and it's for him, it's unfortunate because of his injury. It wasn't
Mhm.
lack of play or lack of successful play.
Right. No, that's a really good one. I mean, you can't make the hall if you're not on the ice.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you have a couple more.
Yeah, I have one more up and one more down. What do you got? You got anything on your side?
Uh, not. I had one, but it's. I'll just sort of like forego it. It's not
Okay.
it's not that big deal. You can finish off with everything you got.
Sure. I'll start down with Anthony Rendon. So here's a guy that was
For what hall are we talking about?
yeah.
Elevator up for the bad contract hall.
Well, that's just it. He had a great start to his career with the Nationals, top 11 in MVP voting in his first 5 times in his first 8 seasons.
Champion.
Yeah, World Series champion in 2019 with the Nationals. Then he signs the contract with the Los Angeles Angels. 7-year deal, $245 million. First year is 2020, which is the screwed up year because of the government response to COVID. So
I like the way you worded that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Hat tip Chris.
We're trying not to be political. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So he basically played a full season there. There was 60 games. He played 52. Since then, he's played, I think, like 240, 208 games, 205 games, something like that, out of over 600 eligible games. Just injury after injury after injury. And here it comes around to spring training, and guess what?
Yeah,
he's injured again. Is supposedly going to miss.
He wants to play.
Yeah, long-term absence projected for him. So he's got this year and he's got next year on that contract. Obviously, it hasn't worked out. Like with Demko, you can't make the hall if you're not in the lineup. I feel bad for the guy because of that, but
Rendon, I don't. Just some of the things that are coming out of his mouth.
Well,
he
makes it easy.
Says like baseball's not my focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Clearly.
I get putting family first, but he didn't say that.
Yeah.
and everyone should, and all athletes should put their family before their sport. I truly believe that, but I don't think that's the case here. I think it's like, okay, I got my money, and it's like, all right. Yeah, Rendon just seems like a prick. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I wonder because the Nationals have their Hall of Fame. I wonder if it sort of like impacts
their team.
No, but I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, it shouldn't. But I mean, like, clearly, this guy is just not. He's just not a good guy. From what I've learned, what I read, and again, by all means, comment if I'm wrong. I got no problem with that, but I don't know, man.
yeah.
No, that's sort of a good one. I saw the same news that you did. I didn't like think about talking about it. Maybe because I never really thought of him as Hall of Fame guy anyway. But yeah, he kind of deserves to be crapped on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his first years with the Nationals, he was definitely building something there. He was building a case, and then gets to the big market out in Los Angeles, gets the big contract, and then just
Yeah,
everything goes wrong. And
I think maybe just sort of exposed a part of him that maybe didn't exist.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm no psych major. Don't play one on TV, but it's yeah, Rendon. I mean, he's a bigger bust than Albert Pujols in California.
yeah, it was more just mention him for out of
These Pujols could say that, hey, I got to see Pujols play.
I get to see a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer.
You know what we should do? We should sort of come up because I don't know how many games you've been to, like in all the sports. I've been to a few here, a few there. We should do like just a show of figuring out the top 10 best players that we ever got to see live.
Sounds like a fun thing. Obviously if where you grow up kind of maybe dictates some of that, like what
That's the fun part, right?
Yeah, what you get to see. So yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, because I never saw Gretzky, but I did see Michael Jordan, albeit when he was a Wizard. But I got to see him play live.
I got to see Burry play once.
There you go, right? So I mean, it could be an interesting sort of thing, and just how that all came about.
Yeah.
All right, there's a show.
There you go.
Like I need more stuff to do, but anyway. And you've got one more down or one more up. Sorry.
I can throw one more down at you that just I forgot about. Example where maybe
too, right?
What's that? I have a NASCAR up. Yeah. So
Okay.
but yeah, just a quick last down. Maybe not all press is good press. The Steve Smith Sr. kind of popped up in the news here lately with some
Yeah.
off-field exploits, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Smith was finalist for Pro Football Hall of Fame this year, so he made the top 15. But with the new rules, voting rules, players coming on, the players that are expected back, already kind of waved into the finals there. In one case with Torrey Holt,
Well, about that, that may not necessarily be the case because Paul Lawrence, our friend, messaged Clark Judge and says, like, I don't think that's the case. So maybe that press release might be wrong.
Because I think when we talked to Clark the other day, he was kind of surprised by that too until it kind of was mentioned, like it was something that.
But that conversation occurred after our show.
Okay.
So I mean, just out there. Let's promote that one. We had a great conversation with Clark Judge. That's all on our channel.
Hall of Fame selector, just a fountain of knowledge of football, of music. We found out beforehand. Hockey fan.
It's
great guy.
It's one of those things too where this is where when people say, "Oh, the voters, they're all awful." No one's more pissed off than an actual voter.
Yeah,
and we could see that when we were talking with Clark, who puts in more effort than I don't know if it's fair to say anybody, but he might be in the Mount Rushmore of Hall of Fame work.
Yeah, he's he's extremely dedicated. He takes it extremely seriously. He's very passionate about when he has somebody to present. Obviously took it very personal that his uh, the person he was presenting, Ralph Hay, was not ultimately elected.
Right.
Which again, how the hell you can talk about the history of the NFL without talking about the player, the guy that founded the whole damn thing. So, guys, come on, we gotta figure something out there with the football hall. But
I can't
we,
never won a Super Bowl. I don't know what to say.
yeah. So, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
especially for those guys, like here are these historians. We're doing
spend.
this. We're spending hours upon hours, day after day, researching this,
Mhm.
and you're doing that to people who I don't want to say couldn't care less, but I'm sure some of them don't care less.
So the blue panel committee, they take days to kind of cull through the list. They
Yeah.
have meetings, they discuss these players in depth. They come up with their best contributor candidate this year was Ralph Hay, extremely deserving
Yeah.
candidate, and he gets presented to the entire board by Clark Judge in this case. Clark gets about 5 minutes to present his case to the entire group, and then they can take some time to ask questions, discuss, and ultimately decide. So if these other selectors are not kind of doing their own research, they're just kind of taking what the presenter has to present to give them, and not considering what went into coming up with this person as their candidate,
Right.
and just kind of like dismissing him that quickly. It's really not doing a service to the history of the league,
No,
which the
no,
hall is dedicated to preserving.
no, absolutely. And there's no point for them to even put his name forward again, like we saw last year. Sorry, I know we're sort of like regurgitating stuff we've already said, but we're here. It's probably why we didn't see Buddy Parker return. We're not going to see Ralph Hay return. We're not going to see Jim Tyrer return. Uh, that's my prediction anyway. I mean, why would the committee put themselves through this again?
Yeah, I mean, Art Paul
Right? Yeah.
was bypassed last year as well, in under different voting circumstances. Um, Buddy Parker was the one that was really an irritation. His his debate was over an hour with the entire committee, and
Yeah. We're assuming that it's because he didn't have enough black players or he didn't integrate soon enough. And so I guess the belief is, well, maybe Buddy Parker was racist, and we don't know.
no,
The only thing I could find on my own independent research was a damning quote, actually, and it said it was from Buddy. He says like, I would have no problem with a black player. I just haven't found one good enough to play. I'm paraphrasing that. It's not exact, but which yeah,
the off
it's a bad optic when you if you read that, you know.
so the selectors are supposed to consider what the player did, or in this case the coach contributor did on field. The off field stuff is supposed to be
They don't.
overlooked, but is that off field? Is that on field? Because it kind of straddles the line of roster building and players and things like that, or but at the same
No,
time too, there's
but
there's really
we have
little
George
to
Preston
no.
Marshall in the actual Pro Football Hall of Fame, an actual racist,
Yeah,
and I got a problem with that.
yeah. With Mr. Parker, with Buddy Parker, there was
Well,
hearsay and
yes, we're guessing.
exactly, and to make that the final decision, what you base your final decision on, that's something you can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, I think was misguided on their part.
Yeah, I mean, like Bill Maher says, I'm paraphrasing again. when you're looking back in history, you got to remember the time that you're in.
Mhm.
And a woke person in 1959 would probably still be a racist today by the modern standard. You know what I mean? So it's like, why didn't you know what we already know? It
Sure.
sort of like says, if we find out that Buddy Parker openly discriminated, I will have no problem keeping him out. I know to what you're supposed to focus on the field, and our friend Ken Crippen, who was part of that Blue Ribbon Committee, he has told me on our show that he will only look on field, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I struggle with that sometimes. I'm looking at a bigger picture, and I don't think that's wrong either. But again, I always say it's people voting on people. All right, we segued out of this. Up, you've got another.
Yeah, so wrap it up real quick with Steve Smith here. Essentially, we have Larry Fitzgerald coming onto the ballot this year. There was already 3, including Steve Smith, that weren't selected. Somebody's going to fall off they're not going to put 4 wide receivers up as finalists this year. So somebody's going to fall off that finalist, to make room for Fitzgerald. And some negative off-field stuff here may lead the selectors to push him back in the queue a little bit.
Only days before, too, he was actually really pissed off at Cam Newton, who's got his own podcast, and pretty much said that until I got there was nothing. And then Steve Smith said, like, okay, well, more or less like, okay, you're calling me nothing. I don't remember the exact quote. I didn't have this ready because I didn't think we were talking about that. But
yeah,
I could even argue that Cam Newton's sort of an elevator down the way he's sort of been conducting himself on social media and his own podcast. Again, as a Saints guy, Cam Newton terrified the hell out of me. And so when I forget what player called him a glorified running back, he's not a glorified running back. He's one of the greatest power rushing quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, it was a nightmare in there when he was definitely somebody you knew could take over the game one way or another.
I watched him do it many times.
Yeah,
but he's also the victim of one play, that fumble, and then his reaction of not seeming to care, which I'm sure he cared very much.
Yeah,
but it all comes down to how it's perceived.
Yeah, he.
Does your dog have an Instagram that we can promote?
No, he does not. He just has. He just wants to be part of the show tonight. So real quick here, last up I have is William Byron from the NASCAR world. So NASCAR runs their biggest race at the beginning of the season. They kick it off with the Daytona 500, and Byron has now gone back to back as Daytona 500 champion. 5th driver to do it, joining the likes of Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Sterling Marlin, and Denny Hamlin. So
big names.
Exactly. When you're mentioned with those kind of guys, you're doing something right. And there's a lot of luck involved there, missing the big one there at the end, but you got to put yourself in the position to be able to have that luck come through for you. So
absolutely.
So that's my contributions tonight.
There we go. All right. So with that, this brings the elevator show to a close, as I always end. What's your dog's name?
Oh, this is Buddy here.
Oh,
Buddy. Mr. Buddy. He doesn't want to be on camera, but he'll chime in every now and then.
What kind of dog?
Lab terrier mix.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, from our dog to Chris's dog to your dogs, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care.
Good night.